Hello, it's Barrel Vision, and welcome back to the Overclock Workshop. We're finally, I guess not really finally, it's one a week. It's like, it's not surprising that we've only just gotten to the Grenade Launcher. It's how it works. It doesn't feel like, oh, finally we're here. But no, we're doing the engineer secondaries now, so it's the deep core 40mm PGL. I still think it's stupid that there's two guns from the first generation of weapons that have deep core in the name.
I imagine it must have been because they thought that would be like a brand.
Yeah,
weapon.
definitely. I mean, it's a weapon skin that's called Deep Core. It's
Yeah.
the second one you get from. God, I remember the days where the only weapon skins were the ones you got from buying weapon upgrades. Oh my god. Right.
Old Harry.
So, I mean, anyone who's seen this before knows how this works, and I think I can actually say that now because these videos get views.
Yeah.
But
It's all about the views.
we each present one clean, one balanced, and one unstable overclock for the given weapon, and assault each other verbally and physically in regards to each other's ideas.
It's not that bad.
It never is, actually. It never is. It might be this week, but we'll see. I don't know.
Oh.
No, I don't think so. There's nothing too
Foreboding.
extreme here. I don't think. And I think we're actually roughly on the same page on the things that the Grenade Launcher needs. And we're about to tell you what it needs because we're about to start.
Good.
In 3. No, we've already started, haven't we? Right, there's no point wasting any more time. My clean overclock is remote detonation. I'm sure you can guess what that is. The description literally reads what he said because the actual text for the positive is when the trigger is held after firing, as in you hold it down. You don't let go once you've fired. Grenades will stick to enemies and surfaces and only explode when the trigger is released. Now, I've already realised something I would change about this, but that's the point of the series, right? And I think this is a valuable utility that the Grenade Launcher could have. The only problem I have with, especially, this only applied to the clean, really, is that I don't think the Grenade Launcher has any valuable cleans, because I believe it's only good when pushed in some very specific direction, so I always find the cleans to just be lackluster, and I don't think this does any better, but I sort of just had to force myself to do something. So yeah, you can it explodes at your say-so, as long as you hold it down. You can't fire multiple grenades at once, obviously, otherwise that would go a little bit beyond being clean. I think this is a fairly benign, but not too overwhelmingly positive new function for it.
You could, like, shoot the front of a swarm and wait until it kind of becomes in the middle. Like, finds its way in them and then detonate it.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe it wouldn't make the grenade sticky necessarily, because normally the grenades sort of roll a bit, like they'll bounce off the first bit terrain, I think, or something.
What is it going to do? Because I'm pretty sure it's the upgrade, right? That means it only detonates when near things. What's going to happen with
Proximity detonation.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did I cancel it out?
Yeah, if you use this, because the way the remote detonation works is it explodes when you release the trigger. So if you just press the trigger to shoot, the grenade will function as normal. So you just hold it down. As long as you hold the grenade won't explode as long as you hold the trigger. I don't know if maybe there should be a time limit on it. So what I would do with it, I would probably just stick it to like a big enemy. I don't know. Thinking about it, I don't know what I would do with it, but it's something I've always liked the idea of, and I think it makes sense. And it's almost strange to me that this doesn't exist. I felt like it did at one point. I felt like it did, but it didn't. I'm pretty sure it didn't. But it makes sense.
Pretty sure doesn't sound pretty sure.
You shut your mouth.
I mean, that's like all it does, right? Because it's a clean. Just
because I guess the better version of this, if you were to make it a balanced or unstable, it would do more damage the longer you hold the explosion or whatever. But I had better ideas.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the cleans. We definitely have a problem with when we do cleans, don't we? I think in regards
There's
to
no
recording, because
usually.
we usually say more than is necessary every time.
Oh yeah.
Because there's not much to say about the cleans in game.
Yeah, well, the thing is that not yet, especially for this series, we would more talk about the negatives and how if they're too much or too little, but there's no negatives for it clean, and which also means the positive isn't that ridiculous either. So there's really fuck all to talk about. You literally just say what it is, really.
Well, at
for
least
the
this is
clean
an
ones.
idea because I have sort of accepted that some of the cleans, like in the future, they're just going to have to be like other cleans, like obligatory stuff, like just increased like better reload speed or slightly more ammo or something. We can do those. It's kind of you can't really get too creative with the cleans anyway, so there's not much point worrying about it. But this is something I think. But that being said, we should probably move on, because I think your clean is a little bit more interesting. Scary fireworks, as you can see, it's fear based.
Yeah. So I think I may have mentioned it before, but I'm just gonna clarify right here, right now. For my cleans and kind of what the game does as well, like not all the time, but sometimes it's literally you just have something that's there and you make it a bit better. Really, is how I see it. That's what cleans tend to do. Like they give you a bit more ammo or a bit more damage, something like that. And as far as I recall, I think the grenade launcher has both of those things. Like area
That is
damage and
exactly
more
what the two
area.
cleans are.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, what do I do now? Until I realized that it has a base fear in the gun. Right, there is always a fear effect, so fear is part of the gun. It's one of the default things. So I was like, okay, I can work with this. All right, which led me on to a fear-based clean overclock, which is, I was just kind of explaining now. You fire a shot, it detonates. The norm. But then after that, it waits a couple seconds, detonates again, and then waits a couple seconds, and detonates again. But the second two detonations do not do any damage.
No,
It is
that's
pure
important.
fear. Yeah, it is. It's not shooting 3 shots, but it is making that area basically a no man's land for a little while. While not inherently doing any damage like a fat boy, it is still, they'll just be terrified of that area. So it gives you a bit of relaxation, which I realise is actually kind of strong for a clean.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm not sure it's the best. I mean, fear is a pretty good status effect. Don't get me wrong, but it's also not going to kill anything anytime soon.
No, you're not adding a ridiculous amount of damage to the weapon.
Yeah.
It's to me, this strikes me as a utility that would be used to more often than not help with reviving teammates. But even still, it's not going to get rid of an oppressor or a dreadnought. It just can't do that.
I think it is literally. I think it is more utility than anything, which I think is not a bad thing. Cleans tend to do that. You know what I mean? Others tend to do that. But yeah, and I only really went with this type of fear because increasing the fear factor isn't inherently good. Some things are just immune, and most things are immune. 100% fear, that'll do everything that can be feared, right? What?
Not. It's weird. I'm sorry, I don't think I can actually explain it.
That's the thing I also realised while doing it is I was thinking maybe I increase the area of fear, so the area is bigger, being scared. But then I didn't know how much fear consisted within the area, like if it was more concentrated in the middle. And I thought maybe I'll expand how concentrated it is, but I didn't realise if it was concentrated. Point is, I realised this is probably the easiest way of conveying that it boosts fear, and I think it's pretty cool. And yeah.
Do you have anything else to say? Because I have a couple of things.
I think I had a spelling mistake in the description of it. I think I meant to put right loud, and I think I wrote load.
You did. It's right here, but I wouldn't deign to correct any of your mistakes. For these videos. Yeah, the only thing
Yeah.
that it's not, I wouldn't call it a concern actually, but I do have to think about how would this be portrayed visually? Because when the grenade
Um,
explodes, it's gone. So it's like a smaller
I'm
capsule that it
thinking.
releases. Where does that
I'm
end up?
thinking.
Does it just stop
It's
where the
just
grenade
like a.
explodes?
I mean, there's quite a few effects, and they could obviously add some, but maybe the Banshee module,
Yeah,
a big version of that, maybe,
yeah,
because that's kind of a signal, like an indication of fear. Just maybe, when you detonate a detonator when it's frozen, and there's a bit of a pooh,
yeah.
that maybe not obviously not
Well,
the
no, no.
knockwave, but the
Sorry, I don't
visual
mean that
effect.
either. I just mean it. How what represents where the fear is coming from? Because the
Well, it's just
projectile
where it
itself is
detonated.
destroyed where it detonates. No, no, the physical thing that emits the fear.
Then
What the fear?
maybe there's well, considering I called it the fireworks, maybe there's like a firecracker, like where it detonated, where there's just a little particle effect
That
that
would
will
be
then
that would keep it
poof.
very simple because that's not really even. I mean, that's still an asset, but that's like if it just puts a particle effect on the ground, you could just
Or no,
pretend
not
it's a
even going out, just
firecracker.
where it detonated. Just that's it,
Yeah,
and there's a little particle, and yeah,
I
and
just think that.
it's not gonna hurt the dwarves in any way or do
No,
anything
no,
like
no,
that. So
no. Also,
I
that
think
keeps it simple too. Where it's just where it detonates. It doesn't carry on it doesn't take the grenade's
yeah,
trajectory and carry on moving, anything like that. It's where it detonates. So yeah, I would definitely use this for like revivals and things like that. All that nonsense and obvious crowd control uses. I mean, it would be
yeah,
great with incendiary compound, obviously, because when you have a big stream of grunts and you wouldn't be able to get them all with this one grenade. It wouldn't matter because they'd be feared so much they would just keep running back into the group and set each other on fire like 3 times in a row.
yeah. I do think it is actually a lot stronger than I thought it was initially. Like I knew it was kind of like it would be definitely solid, but I realized that its utility is quite a lot. But I also don't
I
think,
think it's fine. Some cleans are really
yeah,
strong.
yeah, and I think compared to the other overclocks for the grenade launcher, I don't think it's S tier compared to like Fat Boy and all that other stuff. I think people could definitely use it if they don't feel like using the other ones. But yeah, honestly pretty chuffed with that one.
This is one that I
Uh,
could see myself using. Unlike
yeah,
my clean.
same could I.
Another one I could see myself using is my balanced. Um,
Yeah, smooth.
is it? Was that smooth? I suppose
It's a transition.
I've definitely negated any smoothness by I just derailed it basically. Anyway,
Yeah.
Baby Maker is what it's called. If anyone catches the reference, I'm not going to say what it is, but it is a reference. I realised that I just put all the information up on the screen before actually explaining what it does. That's not how we do this. So, yeah, Baby Maker. It is basically a cluster grenade, but well, as it is written here, it will split into the cluster bomblets, they call them, the cluster bombs. It will split into those on impact, and I think they're all exactly the same as the cluster bomb um, bombs, cluster grenade bombs, except there's 8 instead of 7, I think, and you can also make them do direct damage. Because spiky grenades, it makes the grenade do 60 direct damage. In this case, they all do 15 if you have that equipped. So yeah, you're basically shooting cluster grenades. But the other part of it is that if you were to press the trigger while the grenade is in flight, it will cluster mid-flight, and all of the cluster bombs will, carry over the momentum and trajectory of the grenade. So you can make it directional where the bomblets go, which is my favourite thing about this. And the negatives are basically the first one makes perfect sense. It's just reduced AOE damage and radius, so it reduces it down to the base grenade is exactly the same in terms of damage and radius as to the bomblets themselves, and then it also reduces the fear factor and armor breaking too, because you don't need that shit. They're not gone, but it just reduces them by about 75%. So yeah, this is just
So
this,
you only really reduce things that you wouldn't need anyway. In the weapon,
kind
like the
of,
AOE, you don't really need because there's just more of them, and yeah.
which frankly is actually more of a common trend it seems with unstables and balanced.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like this because it first of all it definitely feels like the sludge blast of the PGL, which makes zero sense when now I'm saying that considering what my unstable is. I even used the same logo for it though, and it basically turns it into not a hybrid direct damage and AOE damage, but definitely a hybrid crowd clear and single target damage thing. Because the where you can do the directional cluster bomb thing. Did you actually understand that part, by the way? I'm not sure how well I described it. Where it's sort of like if you press the trigger while the grenade's flying, it will split, and all the little ones will follow its path, so they'll sort of go in that direction. They'll still split off a little bit, but it won't be like the cluster where they go out in like an umbrella shape. They'll sort of go to roughly towards where you're aiming, so you just get a shit ton of directional area damage, and you could like focus that all on a Praetorian to do a shit ton of damage, especially if you took spiky grenades and that kind of thing. Or you could just fire it as normal into a crowd and do even more damage. And I think with the way that this works, because they do even less damage than RJ250 compound does when you take incendiary compound. I don't think you would actually be able to set like a group of grunts on fire, say, with one of these cluster grenades. Which is actually deliberate because I kind of didn't want it to benefit too much from that. I wanted to sort of not need that basically to make the grenade launcher good. So yeah, given that it's much better AOE damage and the potential for quite significant single target damage, I wonder if maybe the negatives aren't good enough or aren't present enough. I mean, but that's only because I don't want to reduce the grenade launcher's ammo any further. I just don't want to do that.
Is that going to be a common theme?
No.
In that? No? Alright.
No.
Well, yeah, because I think what I noticed is that the game is very fond of getting rid of ammo for the grenade launcher or messing with the ammo. I think all but one overclock doesn't actually increase or decrease ammo, which
Oh, yeah, that's
is
true. Yeah, I suppose one of the cleans does increase ammo, which counts towards that.
yeah. So it's something. Not sure what it is, but it's something. But I mean, I'm not sure with the triggering mid shot because normally you're already kind of reloading while that's happening.
That's a good point, actually.
And you can do it while reloading, which I guess is fine, but it's not going to be too pleasant.
Better
and
idea.
If you don't do it while reloading, then you spend too long not reloading.
I've got a better idea. So half what I would do to workshop this, half scrap the idea that it just turns it into a cluster grenade, in that it would do that if the grenade actually hits, like makes impact of the ground or an enemy, but after like half a second, like in the air, it will do the cluster thing where it splits and they sort of follow the direction of the. Maybe that's
like
the idea I
the,
should follow. It's like the main point of the overclock.
What's the rocket launcher from Borderlands, where it just kind of like, if it's in the air for a while, it just increases the amount of like the projectile. Point is, yeah, I think if it becomes more automatic, then yeah. And plus, then it kind of indirectly nerfs its range or buffs its range, or I'm not sure what that would
nerfs,
mean.
It would be nerf, but I think it makes sense because, frankly, that part of it, being able to have this directional cluster bomb, was the more attractive part of it for me. So maybe it makes more sense to push that, not as well as it stands. That's sort of like an alternate function, but maybe I should be pushing that as the whole point of this overclock, really.
Yeah.
Instead of just turning the grenades into cluster grenades. Yeah. And you don't think maybe anything to say about the negatives? I don't want to change them. Because imagine you don't really need fear with this. That's why.
So what? It gets rid of the fear effect.
It's minus 75% fear and armor breaking.
Which is so it throws like a ton of little stuff on them.
Yeah.
Basically, that does pretty good damage, but isn't good at anything else really. Like the area is not amazing. They don't really do any effects, stuff like that.
Yeah. I like the idea this would probably be better at single target damage, but it wouldn't like completely take that away. That you could fire this against from a certain range, firing against a group of grunts would be very effective. So this to me is sort of a middle ground. Not a middle ground, but sort of like an optimized version of hyperpropellant. Because, well, actually, we had a discussion earlier about why my thoughts on hyperpropellant and what makes it not great. So this maybe works in its favour. I don't know. I think it's good. It's the best overclock anyone's ever made. Let's just get it out of the way. So yeah, to workshop it, I would just take that second, that directional thing, and just make that the whole point of it instead of just turning the grenades into cluster bombs, because it's just unnecessary.
All right.
Because we are here to workshop these ideas.
We are?
Anyway, I've just moved on to your unstable. You're balanced.
No, balanced. All right.
Chilling blast.
Yeah, which I bet you can't see where this is going.
No, we can.
Okay, you might
very
be
easily
able to see where this is going. All right. Converts 100% of damage into cold damage.
Yeah.
And I wanted to word that specifically because I don't want it to inherently negate the upgrade that makes it do fire damage, but I'm not sure what that would mean.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Like, I want it to be able to do 50% of both, technically, but then I'm not sure if they would invalidate each other or temperature shock. But that's just, I want to leave that on the table, right? But that's not necessarily the main thing. Main thing is, it turns your shots into basically cryo grenades.
Yeah, let's start with that.
Yeah, where on detonation, it's normal, but now it freezes and does freeze like cold damage instead of the normal type of damage, whatever it does, explosive, I would imagine. And it loses 3 ammo, which I think brings it down to like, well, it depends on your upgrades, but I think it's 5 without any ammo upgrades, maybe.
Ooh, yeah, 5 or 6. That's quite low, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but bear in mind that, as mentioned, it's basically the cryo grenades, and except kind of better because you can probably get more range on it, and it might be able to temperature shock. Don't know about that.
Let's just say no to temperature shock. But yeah,
but
this would be pretty cool.
And slightly slower reload, just kind of something else. I think it is kind of valid. So you can't just like freeze. It's more of a freeze, and then you kind of use it later. Kind of a weapon.
Well, we should probably talk about the fact that you've just turned engineers like main AoE into just cold, and I'm not sure exactly what this would do in terms of how would an engineer player sort of handle things after that. First of all, you would definitely want both your turrets down, because this would actually make clearing grunt hordes quite easy.
I'm also thinking of the positive of Macteras. Not that Macteras are that big of an issue, but you just like kind of plump and they all fall to the ground, that kind of stuff. I'm not sure how much damage it does. Like cold, you probably could freeze a oppressor. I would imagine
Um,
it
the problem
scales the
is,
damage it
I
does.
can't just like look at. I would be able to. I don't know how I would figure this out. I guess I would figure it out by looking at what the stats are for the cryo grenade itself, how much cold it
I
does.
think
But I can't do that right
it
now
would
because that would require
vary.
me going onto
Yeah, no.
carl.gg and fucking up this whole thing.
But if you were to spec it into damage, you might be able to get it to freeze a depressor.
Do you think
Probably, maybe
that's
not.
okay? I think that's
I think that's fair
definitely
because if
okay.
you spec into damage, then you have even less ammo, right?
Exactly.
So that's then on you, right? You can pick between freezing hordes or freezing select things, which is up to you. And I think that has just convinced me even more that I
You
like
would
this
have
thing, 'cause-
6 ammo.
yeah.
I do think the ammo dearth is slightly too much for balanced.
Yeah.
Just make it 2. It's fine. It's fine, man. It's okay. It's alright.
No, because cold is very good.
Hyperpropellant takes away 2 ammo.
Yeah, but hyperpropellant is like a. I mean, I guess it does. I don't know. I suppose maybe. The point is, I want a bit less ammo because I think the freeze effect is quite strong,
Yeah.
and it would be very similar to a scout's cryo grenade
Yeah.
in how you would use it.
But this is a weapon, not a grenade, and it does sort of bring to the forefront a criticism of the cryo cannon that is sometimes leveled at it that isn't really valid. Is that freezing is all this is doing, which means the gun actually does no damage on its own. Obviously, it needs to kill Mac Terrors, but it does nothing on its own, which means you have to rely on your primaries and your turrets, which is why I think this works. It's the turrets that should do a lot to help this. They'll just mop up everything you freeze very easily. And the shotgun especially will just tear down the bigger stuff. Yeah, man, this is good.
Yeah, I'm quite fond of this. It might. Obviously, as you could probably tell by my explanation, the details are iffy. Like whether or not it would temperature shock or invalidate itself with the fire upgrade, whether or not you could insta freeze a oppressor or not. It kind of varies. I'm not sure on the details.
It would invalidate the stun upgrade. What's the point of having fear when they're all frozen? I don't know. What about armor breaking? I don't know. But I guess it would push you towards using high velocity grenades on that tier. You wouldn't use incendiary compound or pressure wave. You'd use, and that means you could one shot breeders from across the room.
I think you. Driller has plenty of freeze. Engineer could use a bit of freeze in his life. It's such a good effect.
You could chill out, man. You could take
I think Engineer needs to chill out.
Not be afraid to freeze and think about a nice time.
I think of all the ways he could do it, I think this would be a pretty nice way because I think it's also, it's there. You know what I mean? Like no one's like he's so similar to, the freeze grenades that no one could be like, oh, how the hell do I freeze with this thing?
My big problem with it, actually, I just realised, is this would be completely useless against dreadnoughts and any robots.
Yeah, and that's on. Well, yeah. Then don't use it against those things.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I just wish everything was usable against everything because.
Yeah, but it's not always the case.
Nope. Bastards. Yeah, I wouldn't. Well, obviously that's objectively a problem. And I don't think I could really. I don't know what I could suggest to make that better without just changing the whole thing entirely. So we might as well just not try that. I do perhaps still believe that maybe the ammo penalty shouldn't be so great. Nothing wrong with a slow reload. Yeah, overall it's actually fairly well put together. It's very simple. Like, there wasn't much room for you to slip up in making this, to be fair.
Yeah.
It sort of just is what it is. But it works. And I think Engineer is someone who would benefit from being able to freeze things more than you might expect. And we'll leave it at that. Because we need to talk about the unstables.
Yeah. You do yours first. That's how it works.
Yeah, it's a lovely name for my unstable overclock. Sludge Bucket. Called Slugs Bucket.
Think we can all see where this
You can
is
see
going.
where this is going. Yeah. Really? So, well, it's not that simple to explain. It's like it doesn't just corrode everything it hits. It's like the blast releases like sludge fragments, right? Like a charge shot from the sludge pump, and it's 8 by default, and you can add more with the radius upgrades because I saw on wait, what with radius upgrades? Hold on. I think with area damage upgrades, I don't know. Maybe you can't increase the amount. Anyway, it shoots out 8 sludge fragments, so they'll corrode an enemy if they hit them, or create puddles if they hit the ground. And it does it in like the way it releases them. It's like a sphere. So you have like if you connected them all, it would make a sphere. They're all sort of regularly spaced out, but obviously they don't just shoot off in like with like 100% velocity. They don't like hit scan sludge puddles. They'll shoot off in like a spherical shape, but like so one will go straight up, but it would just come straight back down. I don't know. So you shoot. It's a slightly different charged sludge pump shot, basically. That's actually the whole thing.
I like how we both decided to just turn his grenade launcher into a driller primary.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? And unsurprisingly, as far as negatives go, like massively reduced area damage. So you still have some, like a tiny bit, like 25, no, 15. Increased reload time, slightly reduced ammo capacity. I literally just put -1 because thinking about this, I think you can excuse having a decent amount of ammo. I don't think this should tank the ammo capacity, but the increased reload time though. What I've got written here is plus 0.5 to 1.5 seconds. Right? It's an idea that I explain in the description, where it's like the grenades are sticky, so reloading might be finicky in the way that it's going to be inconsistent. It's not like you'll feel it.
It's actually random.
It's between 0.5 and 1.5 seconds, so it's slightly inconsistent, but it's always going to be enough to like where you're going to feel that it's slower than normal.
That is something that hasn't been done. Like obviously, there's been random damage, but there's never been like random reload.
Yeah, but it hasn't been done because there's no point.
Well, no, I mean, as like a negative, that could be something. Yeah, I mean, that sometimes your reload might take ages. Sometimes it might be normal. I guess you wouldn't want to be quicker. But if it was a negative, sometimes it could be worse. Which
so maybe we should have the maximum added reload time be quite high.
Maybe, yeah.
As far as the actual effect goes, I had trouble when I was making this figuring out how it works. So I thought, okay, let's just get this written down, and we'll figure it out on the day. But I'm still struggling to figure it out, to be honest. So I guess anything that a sludge fragment lands on will become corroded, and if they hit the ground, then they'll become puddles. And you could set those puddles on fire, I think, with incendiary compound, but that would require 2 shots. But it would still work in that way.
It is just a sludge bomb, isn't it?
Well, no, because the point is it releases the fragments at a much higher velocity than the sludge pump itself. So the idea behind it is we give engineers, corrosion because corrosion's the best, and it sort of extends the range in a weird way. Because when you think about the sludge pump's charge shots, it's like you don't really view it as an area of effect. You view it as sort of where do the fragments end up. It's like it doesn't have an AoE radius, but it has a high AoE range. But you're not going to hit everything within the radius that the fragments can land in, which is basically just what we're doing here. We're increasing the grenade launcher's effective range, but not actually increasing its radius, which is just mind-boggling. Also, in my opinion, this would be better against dreadnoughts. I would shoot this like at a dreadnought's like feet, and then it would like corrode them and like lay puddles beneath them, and that's just going to be better against dreadnoughts because your cryo one will do jack shit against dreadnoughts, but corrosion will do something to them. It'll do something to robots.
Probably right, but like if somehow, and I'm not sure if it did enough damage, it could insta-freeze it, but I don't think that's possible. But I'm really not sure either. So
no, I don't think so. So basically, what I've done by giving the grenade launcher sludge is actually just made it more consistent in terms of effectiveness, but less consistent in terms of area of effect. I don't know. I just like the idea of giving it corrosion because I'm a child.
Fair enough. Wait, not fair enough.
You what?
Yeah. Well, I think it is.
Well, the alternative version of this, when I was trying to come up with this, I was like, what if it just applied corrosion to every enemy it hits? It obviously would reduce the area damage a lot, but would that just be a roundabout way of not actually changing much? Because in this way, it actually changes the function, but it is kind of just a charged sludge pump shot. So obviously the function changed because it does what another weapon does now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the whole reload thing is interesting, as mentioned, but I don't know. To be honest, and this is personal more than anything, I'm not fond of the splash corrosion things, like the kind of small puddles that you kind of have to like kind of lead enemies into, or just hope that they kind of fall into them. Just not fond of that kind of playstyle. And luckily with the corrosion like sludge pump, you don't have to. You can just hit them dead on, and it will get the job done. But this relies a lot more on those puddles actually being something.
Yeah. And I think I also have the stupid idea where it releases them like a spherical pattern. It's kind of dumb. I can imagine it working well in like a tunnel that the drill doser leaves behind, because it would like just basically make a ring of sludge.
Yeah.
But it would also end up I just realised it would also end up firing some sludge towards you, which is just odd. It's a very strange overclock that I come up with. That I think there's obvious validity in giving the grenade launcher a way to apply corrosion, but I don't know if I've actually really hit the nail on the head of this.
I think you could make it like more fun than utility if it was a full circle of corrosion puddles and it launched in a whole 360, just sent them flying, but the puddles lasted like no time. So like in like a 360 things would get
that's crazy,
caked in corrosion, but yeah, I think so. I don't know, obviously that's not really useful, but I feel like engineers unstables, they kind of lean more into fun than useful. They are very useful, but I feel like that's just a coincidence of how fun they are. So I feel like that might be just not as intriguing to, because that's what you gotta bear in mind. You're competing against Fat Boy and that, and I know you don't like Fat Boy and Projectile, whatever. But you've got to acknowledge that a lot of people do, and they are very strong. And do you actually think that competes against them in like any regard, really?
I think it's probably better, but not. It's not. It wouldn't be as popular, I reckon. I'm thinking now of a really terrible idea, like just a grenade launcher that ricochets, where it will release like 3 explosions and it will just bounce between enemies, releasing like 3 separate explosions, which is just nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I think
the grenade
launcher. I think the grenade launcher definitely probably has the easiest and widest array of things you could add. Honestly, the potential for the grenade launcher is probably one of the biggest in the game, as far as things you could do with it. Like, we could probably come up with another set of 3, I would imagine. To be honest, like, you probably come up with 2 more as we were talking. So, you know, it is
at least 1 more.
Yeah. So I think it's quite basic as it is, but also quite interesting. And what they've done with it is quite interesting. But yeah, but shall we do my one? My
No.
file? No.
No.
Oh.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Tyler's unstable.
Did I write fluster or fustercluck or flustercuck?
Fustercluck.
Okay, because with my paper version I wrote flustercuck.
Oh.
No.
Oh dear.
Which is wrong. The one you're
Yeah,
looking
it's
at
weird
is
too.
Yeah. Which
Flustercuck.
is originally I just had it be called clusterfuck. And then Harry was like, no, it should be called flustercuck.
They wouldn't allow
So,
profanity in
you know what I
GLG.
Yeah, except
Not that
they
kind.
do, but not openly. It's buried within the voice lines. Oh, a couple swear words. But
Couple swears.
basically, it's like Carrie's baby ideas, except they're not babies.
Yeah.
Where you shoot something, it explodes, and then I guess because it's not really. It goes up a bit, I imagine, right? Like it's not mentioned there. If you have it up, you should have it up. But it'll go up a bit, but in 4 separate directions, and there are just identical grenades, right? They are the main shot, and there's now 4 more of them, which sounds pretty broken, and admittedly, it is. But you've also got to compare it to Fat Boy and Hyper Rebellion, which are pretty damn broken.
Yeah, it's
right?
also weirdly close to Fat Boy, but also not, because it's like
Yeah.
the effective range is probably bigger than Fat Boy, even though you reduce the AoE, but it can
Yeah.
probably affect more enemies than Fat Boy with the explosion itself. Obviously, Fat Boy hits a lot more with the fallout, but you're also not dealing, because like the total damage that comes from one grenade is actually going to be 550. I don't know if you realised that.
What, per grenade?
Yeah.
Or total?
Total.
So all 5 of them detonating.
Yeah, but that's not gonna. It's not gonna hit.
It's not going to happen
single
to
enemy.
one guy.
No.
Yeah.
No. Fat Boy does 440 with max ammo. 600 if you take both damage upgrades, which is just overkill. Overkill anyway.
Yeah. And this is I would say kind of, it's not really the middle ground. It's a lot more AoE than the Fat Boy, but it's also not full on AoE than the Fat Boy. This is more just a wide area coverage, status effect dealing, kind of just killing things using the grenades as a whole.
This is balanced
instead
with
of
Fat Boy.
doing something weird to the grenades. Pretty much, yeah. And yes. The smaller AoE of 1.5, which I think is like maybe a third of it, I think.
By default, it's half. Going to the default effect radius.
Right, yeah. And then I think you can get an extra 1.5 during an upgrade. But yeah, it is. It's reducing the AoE, so it's not as an obscene of an area coverage. But obviously, it's still covering more area than probably normal AoE. And then 2 less ammo. I went for 2 this time. So this has actually got less of a ammo punishment than the Chilling Blast.
Yeah.
Which
I might disagree with.
Yeah.
I kind of think maybe they should be swapped, to be honest.
Well, you wanted it to be less than the other one anyway. Well, I saw the Chilling Blast as more death potential than Flustercuck. Cluster. It's like I kind of don't hope they pick this name because I won't be able to say it. But yeah.
Wait, you hope they don't pick this name because
Yeah.
it's going to be added. I mean, one way or another.
Obviously, right? That's what this video is for.
Okay.
We mentioned it before. This is all guaranteed to be added to the game.
I think we could pick that as a podcast topic almost at one point, predicting overclocks that could be added, because I think there's a very high chance that if they add more overclocks, assuming that's still in the cards, which I don't see why it wouldn't be, that the grenade launcher will get a cluster grenade overclock.
Almost definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, in what form it will take, we might not have guessed it. Like,
No,
it's unlikely
we are the
that they're going to be
blueprint.
the full-on grenade.
They'll just
And it's
merge
unlikely
ours
that...
together.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, with this, mainly the gimmick is that it launches in 4 directions, so it'd end up looking like a cross, the explosion, which
Yeah.
isn't really anything. It's just more that I think it's more it detonates. The grenades always go out in north, east, south, and west. So, yeah. Point is, I don't know. It's probably one of my least preferred, but I also don't hate it. But yeah,
Well, I actually think it's reasonably balanced, to be honest. But it also doesn't feel out of place as a unstable overclock for the grenade launcher, especially with the name. But yeah, to me, it does actually feel quite well balanced. Like, it's not too much AoE, or it's a well distributed but quite substantial increase in AoE, and it's not overkill in any particular way. It could be used to some good effect against like single targets. Like, I can imagine this being fairly decent against dreadnoughts. You'll probably get a lot of
yeah,
damage off
because
these,
they'll be
so
if you hit them with the direct middle, then they're kind of then surrounded by like the bigger targets would probably get hit by all 5 or all 5 of them.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I think that's fair enough. That's what they get for being fat.
Get fat, get hit. So
Yeah,
say.
I mean, I'm not sure about the ammo things. They're kind of the ones that because when I do these, I look at the guns and I analyze like the other overclocks. How much do they kind of get rid of? How much do they add? Like that kind of thing. So I don't have to hand my justifications for the ammo, but that's what I seem to have picked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did actually have it originally be -3 for the Fuster clock, but I changed it to.
You got it right. You said it right.
Yeah, I know.
Give Tyler a round of
I spend
applause.
my
in the
time.
comments.
Yeah, but yeah, I think should we begin wrapping up?
I think the only thing I can say about this
not-
is I'm the negatives are fine. I might suggest a increase to the ammo penalty, but it also might be fine as it is. In terms of the actual function, I think it is actually good. Like I said, I think it's well balanced, and suggesting any changes would probably only end up bringing it closer to Baby Maker, my
yeah.
cluster. So there's no point really in me actually suggesting any changes, and I don't think it needs any. I think it's actually better than my one. So,
Oh, you.
anyway,
You flatter.
we're going to move on to a new segment. Just sprung this on you.
Yeah.
If you want, we can trial this. Just
Sure.
what do you think the best one is that we came up
Of
with?
this episode.
Yeah. This isn't like one each. We should probably just decide what we think the best thing is, the best one out of the 6 that we came up with.
All right. So I think have you? I'm not sure what you're looking at all. Right. I have no idea. But have you got like maybe all of the icons and names there? Because I think that would be a good shout as like a reminder of what.
That's
there
a
has
good
been.
idea.
Yeah, I mean, probably should have done this before, but
I thought of it while we were recording.
People that have watched this far know that we like to do things on the fly. But right, I mean, I quite like most of my ideas. Right, compared to last time with the smart rifle, where I was not fond of like almost all of them. I like these ones.
I like my ideas. I don't know if I would like them implemented exactly as they are.
Yeah, I think your Baby Maker one, you did kind of lose me. I wasn't exactly sure. It seemed like a bit. Is it just like it shotguns a bunch of little ones, or?
Yeah, I think the shotgun, using that term is actually quite appropriate, and that's the part that I'm sold on the most about it, to be honest, as an idea.
Yeah, I think turning it into like a multiple projectile gun would be pretty interesting. And I think if only maybe should be an unstable. Maybe I think that would be something.
Possibly.
And with your unstable being a corrosion effect, which isn't, I want to be honest, that is probably my least favorite today. I know it's kind of
It's
kind
fine.
of cruel
No,
to say
I
it's one of
kind of
yours,
actually
but
agree, to be honest, because frankly,
I
I think
know.
the best one is probably your cryo one, Chilling Blast. On
I think
simplicity
you
alone,
pointed out. Yeah, you pointed out that it could be completely useless, which is a negative. But I don't know. I feel like people would definitely use Jet and Blast, right? I think that would definitely be one of the higher ups if it were added into the
actually,
game.
you know what? Your fear one's pretty
Because
good
people
too.
like that cryo. I also like my firework. And what was your clean one? It's been so long.
Remote detonation.
Right. I mean, that one's nice, but you like having your guns to be a bit awkward, don't they? Like, you like having to, like, do something after you've shot the shots.
Apparently
Yeah.
so, and
Yeah.
that's not gonna go away. Actually, yes, it is.
I mean,
well, at least
it doesn't matter
I
if it's
can at
gone
least
away
say
for
for the
next one.
minigun and the Thunderhead,
But,
there's not gonna be a. There's nothing like that for those two. Let's just say that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think, personally...
That's a lie, by the way. I just remembered what my unstable is for the minigun.
You lie. I can't believe you thought that far ahead. I think, honestly, my favourite one is my clean one, to be honest.
Same.
I think with the image of the little particle crackling effect, I can see it in the game. I can see it in the game, I can see it being balanced, I can see myself using it. I think that is the one I see most visually, and I think the Chilling Blast is good, but it might be too good, to be honest. There might be too much cryo. The cryo is just too strong of an element to have that many of, especially for engineer.
I just very awkwardly cycled back to the slide with that one on it. This is the winner.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Yeah. I mean, we won't be able to, I guess, visualize it because we'll have to talk about them. But if we had just the title and the icons on screen to remind viewers and yourself and me, not can see it, but of what we mentioned, then that would be good for next time.
I could probably do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like my firework idea most, only because I think it's so simple and I can just see it. I can just see it in the game.
It's so simple, but I can already see the nuances that could come from it. I can already see the utilities. The utility is very immediately obvious. The build diversity is actually fairly competent. Like there's a number of different things you could do with it. Like it would benefit greatly from incendiary compound, but it also has very obvious utility. I like it a lot. It's well done.
Thank
you
very much.
Hats off.
And are we on the final slide now? Are we going to be wrapping up?
I'm going to very quickly dash back to the final slide.
Professionalism, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Don't worry. It won't be this bad next week.
There's no promises there, but it will be a bit better, hopefully.
I think it will implement that idea.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. But, I mean, next week, Plasma Cutter, right?
Breach Cutter. Breach Cutter.
It shoots plasma, which is one of the more interesting ones. I mean, that is a weird-ass gun, but...
Yeah, I've done some pretty cool things with that.
Yeah,
I have no idea what you've done, because I haven't got anything.
Yeah, I haven't actually sent them over yet. No. I've just got them in written form. But yeah, the Grenade Launcher was such an easy gun to make stuff for, to be honest. It's just what it does once it hits its target. But Harry, you seem to want it to, you prefer getting it to the target, what it does on the way, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'll let you wrap it up because it's your little show. Final words. Or don't. Just sit there in silence. That also works.
Anyway, this has been Barrel Vision with the Overclock Workshop. How do we do the Rock and Stone / like and subscribe thing?
I think that was pretty good.
Like and subscribe, and Rock and Stone, they're the same thing. So that should encourage you.
Yeah. Rock equals like, Stone equals subscribe. Right? Like and rock are the same length. Stone begins with S, subscribe begins with S. Right?
Yeah.
And then also
like
be a
begins with
dog
R
and put Rock and Stone in the comments because comments are handy. And I really wish I responded to comments more.
See you all next week. Hope you get hit by a bus.
We don't.
We're done. We've done the stuff. We've said the bits. We got to go before we lose our shit.
Harry, my shit's gone missing.
Should I just go to the next slide?
There's a next slide.
It's a preview for next week.
Shouldn't that have been on while we were wrapping up?
Done.